I'm Malcolm Van Delst, and this excerpt from Low Self-Esteem Reading Room, aka Loser, a deliberately non-linear, genre-defying that explores female hunter, holistic as opposed to specialized and goal-oriented life experience. From forward, if you have nothing to lose but also nothing to gain, you will never matter. Your life becomes open for experimentation. You can write, sing, act, draw, dance. That matters. In doing so, you realize that achievement is chimera. The women, slaves, and exploited, these people are never counted among heroes, yet without them, heroes don't exist. Heroes are thieves. Don't be a hero. Last week in Kara's book, Piss Alien and Other Friends, the old woman read short stories, prose poems, and lists about sneaking up on respect, losing courage, and going mad, interspersed with lists about things to write about. We're continuing with Kara's book. Morning Fire and Dew. Jessica and Tim had lived on a farm. It was a nice place from the outside, all trimmed hedges and pretty flower gardens. Even Jessica and Tim were trimmed and primped, little paper figures from a children's TV show moving sideways across the yard, wanting to run, or rather wanting something, but having no name for it. Jess sits up. Dew. Dew covers everything, but her fire still smolders. She pushes back the pile of coats that are her blankets. Tim is awake, looking at her. Here, Tim, she says, petting him when he comes close. Jess pushes the remainder of the coats away, leans over, and grabs a bunch of sticks from the pile she keeps stocked. She pushes the sticks into the coals, and soon they are snapping and crackling. She shoves a larger log in, grabs a kettle, and fills it from a 10-gallon jug of water. As she waits for the water to boil, she grabs a jar of Nescafe and adds 2 heaping teaspoons to a mug. The mug says, "Lordy, Lordy, look who's 40. It has a fat, out-of-shape woman on it, frowning as she holds one of those things you blow into to make it lengthen. One of those things made out of paper with a plastic tip that you put in your mouth, in her mouth. Jess found the mug in a dollar store. It and a gold-colored necklace that said Kathy in script were the only things left. I will take a shower today, thinks Jess, at the mall, in the change room of the old Bikram's yoga. The yoga shop's showers and hot water still work. Tim will take a shower too. Tim loves showers. Jess smiles, thinking about Tim standing underneath a stream of hot water, tongue hanging out like a mini Miley Cyrus. Miley Cyrus was a pop star who had achieved fame just before the big blow up. I wonder if she's alive, Jess wonders. The big blow up happened about 5 years ago from this morning. It was a destruction around the world of major cities. No one seemed to know if it was a terrorist plot, the oligarchy gone mad, or an accident, a really weird multi-location accident. Jess assumed that it was at least partially planned, like the World Trade Center tragedy of 2001, or the German building that got blown up in the 30s. She imagines that if you were intent on doing something very wrong, you might not be too organized about it. You might kind of stop taking care of your house, for example, if you wanted to burn it down. Or you might stop treating your kids well if you wanted to kill them. She assumes that as the oligarchy got richer and more powerful, as there was less and less for them to bend to their will and to feed their giant egos on, having already bent and eaten 99% of the world, they got sloppier and sloppier. What's the word? Louche? Dissolute? They became louche, dissolute, and uncaring, bored, desirous even of their own destruction. She imagines them imagining all sorts of little campaigns against one another, losing trust since they'd long lost any need for it, having such ultimate power. She imagines calculated breeding and marriages to the point where emotion becomes an anomaly, where logic rules so supreme that it begins to double back on itself in a sort of genetic collectivist intellectual ingrowth. She imagines the Russian prime minister colluding with the American, French, Australian, and Israeli leaders. She imagines the oil giants, BP and Exxon, and the banks, Goldman Sachs and Citi. She imagines these men sitting around at various spas and private clubs, filled with spite and disdain for their immediate inferiors, their VPs, and their perceived enemies. She imagines paranoia and plans X, Y, and Z in place to safeguard complete control. She imagines the men making a pact. I'll blow up my main cities if you blow up yours. Let's start again. Let's start from ground zero. We are alpha men. We our gods, half in jest, but half in boredom and a desire for a challenge. They'd laugh and shoot one of their servants just because he's there, and another servant would clean up the mess, terrified of being shot himself. That's how it happened, she presumes. A Bilderberg meeting in a remote location like Kananaskis in the Canadian Rockies. All the main leaders, or most of them, out of the cities. Let's do it. Let's start from zero. May the best man win. It only takes one man to set in motion the chain of events. Putin gives the signal. His man pushes a button. Another man in Charlotte, North Carolina knows that if Putin's man blows up Moscow, he must blow up New York and LA. A man in France knows he must blow up Paris. A man in Australia, Sydney. Not one of these men really believes their cities will go because they are used to grandstanding and hyperbole. This bomb will take out the whole world if it goes off. Sure it will. And I love the people, right? I would never, ever cheat on my dearest, lovely wife. These men expect spectacular explosions, for sure, but do not believe the damage will be, well, mortal to current civilization. Bam, 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 bam. The cities fell one after another. New York, Moscow, Sydney, Paris, London, all across North America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. Bam, bam, bam. Billions of people died, many from the bombs, but even more from the aftermath, the chaos, the lack of services, the disease. Whole cities gutted, big holes where a day before there had been shopping centers, skyscrapers, and homes. Massive holes as far as the eye can see, filled not only with rubble and twisted metal, but water from the oceans, lakes, and rivers many of the cities bordered. And stench. Jess remembers the pictures from NASA's satellites. Huge floating fires in the initial massive debris cloud. How many people who managed to escape the bombs, flooding, falling buildings, and collapsing streets perished in these clouds? How many people choked to death on the dust of drywall and concrete? It wasn't long after the big blow up that the portals began to appear. At first, people thought it was an alien invasion. Then they thought the governments had fucked up the weather. Massive science or military experiments failed. Theories grew and multiplied. Theories bred. The alien one was the most popular. War of the Worlds, muses Jess. People remember War of the Worlds and believe that aliens destroyed all the cities, then started the portals. Jess assumes that the big blow-up did serious damage to the world's structure, that somehow the huge explosions cracked the Earth's consciousness, as if it were a person, and new bits of reality were suddenly visible when they hadn't been before. She thinks it's like Columbus, whoever, discovering North America. The realities were always there, just not visible.